It is going to be very interesting in the future. Um, I think it's going to get pretty conservative. The rubber band is going to um, hit back. It's going to go the other way. And what is going to be really weird to me is what's going to be crazy is how our society right now is set up for a small minuscule population. They're being catered to, completely taking advantage of whatever power they have, them being put on a pedestal, much like the privilege they have, much like whites used to have back in the day over black people. It's pretty similar to that. Not to that extent, because I shouldn't say it's similar. It rhymes with it. Okay, it's not as bad as what black people. Not even close. But it's kind of like that. How you got a certain type of person who's put up on a pedestal. And eventually, what's gonna happen is the masses are just gonna be like fucking. They get fed up with this shit. They get fed up with being told what to do. They get fed up with being hated on and a small group being in charge. And this goes for the New World Order too. And there's going to be a major backlash. What that major backlash is, I don't know. It could be a social backlash. It could be a violent backlash. I don't know. I don't promote violence. I'm not telling people to go out and commit violence. That's for damn sure. But there's going to be a major backlash. And that's why they have Biden come out with that little speech to try to get people like me scared. Like, you already labeled me as a terrorist because I challenge a certain election. Then I'm not supposed to. You can challenge any election you want except for one specific election, which is hilarious. What's gonna be interesting is females in the future. When I look at females, they're easily programmable. You can see it because they all look the same. Anyway, when I see like a decent looking woman, or like one that looks above average, I think that she's got an OnlyFans. I automatically think that. And what's gonna be interesting is when our society goes back to being more conservative, because at some point we're gonna be going through major suffering. And that major suffering will shift the NPCs and the robots to be wanting to be more conservative, because the type of stuff that they're spewing on the left is not logical and it's not sustainable. But eventually our society will go back to being conservative. And I don't know what extent, okay? Because if you look back at Berlin, it rhymes with what's going on now in San Francisco. But they're trying to get to that point where there's child prostitution, I think. I mean, it's not to that level, but it seems like they wouldn't mind it. I don't want whatever. I don't want a fascist. A dictator like Hitler or nothing like that. But they went back to being more conservative, and they got rid of all that. They cleaned up Berlin, all that hedonism and crap like that. Eventually, that's gonna happen. What I hope is that it doesn't go to as far as the Hitler, where we got concentration camps. What it seems like is on the left, they are the ones that are be fine with putting people like me in concentration camps. But going forward, it's going to be interesting to see females who put themselves all on the internet, and it's for everyone to see, unless like we lose everything, whether it's all their body shots on Instagram or TikTok showing off their body, or them having an OnlyFans and having all that stuff out there forever. That's what people don't understand, is the internet is forever. So it's going to be interesting to see these females going forward, or just people being degenerate on the internet going forward, whether it's getting a job or a relationship. Because for me, I would not put up with, I would not want a relationship with a woman that has that right now, or any of that, like OnlyFans herself on the internet like that. And that's socially acceptable right now, just like being unhealthy is socially acceptable. And people wonder why they charge so much for healthcare, office, whatever, the hospital. Part of it's inflation, part of it's price gouging. But there's so much demand for hospitalizations or doctors because people are so unhealthy, and being unhealthy is being promoted right now. Fat acceptance, that should not be promoted. But these females who are so arrogant and not humble right now, looking down on men, looking down on society, thinking that their shit don't fucking stink. And I understand why they think this is because of fucking simps on the internet. They get all this attention. But it's going to be interesting when that well runs out for OnlyFans, or that attention on Instagram runs out, because that shit, like, eventually I would think that these fucking simps end up waking up and just kind of being like, dude, what am I doing? And it might take 10 years, but I would think that a mass amount of them would wake up and realize they're just being used. And that internet attention goes dry for females. It might not. It might explode. I don't know, man. But I think that our society will become more conservative at some point. And women that have exposed themselves online, they might not end up, they might get fired from their job for some reason. They might not be able to get a job. They might not be able to find a man to take them serious for a serious relationship. A lot of them might end up homeless. You might see a lot of women end up homeless because of this, because of the decisions they've made. No real man in his right mind would want to start a family with a woman that has that type of content on the internet. Not only for his sake, but his children's sake. And that's what women don't look at, the long-term effects. You know, if you don't care about ever having a family, or having a partner, and that's cool, but you know, a lot of women in the past, they stayed with their man even if they were getting beat, which is really messed up. But they did because he provided for her. He provided. So we're going into a scarcity stage. We're going into a stage where people are gonna, at some point within the next couple of years or 5 years, they're really gonna question their materialism consumption. They're gonna question like the attention they put in certain places, like these celebrities, like where they put their money. You know, there's a I seen a TikTok, I don't know if it's true or not, but there's a preseason football game in Los Angeles for the Rams, and I guess parking alone was $100. And now I don't know where at, you know, what type of parking, but $100 for parking. And if you're living in California and you can afford to go to a game, that really shouldn't really hurt you too bad, but because it's becoming more like a rich person's type of deal. To go something to that big, they just won the Super Bowl last year. So, and it's not even a regular season game or a playoff game. It was a preseason game. But I think that people are going to start reconsidering where they distribute their funds in the future, because they won't have hardly any. I've heard that people are taking out debt so they continue to buy fast food. You know, people, it really shows me how programmable people are, like, so easily programmed. I've been programmed before. That the lockdowns and all that, you know, here I never got Uber Eats, not once. And I can understand getting it once in a while if you can afford it. But a lot of people, they just get it every day, like getting Starbucks every day. And at some point, there's going to be a backlash, and people are going to have to make some hard decisions, whether when it comes to feeding themselves, feeding their families, allocating their funds in certain places, giving certain people attention, like movie stars. Next year we have all these sequels coming out of cool movies in the past, and people probably are gonna want to go see those. I wanted to see Top Gun 2. I didn't go to the movies. I haven't been to the movies in forever, but like I wanted to rent it. It's out, but you can't rent it. You have to buy it. So that was $20, and I didn't spend that. People are gonna have to, like, really, at some point they're gonna have to wake up when the scarcity sets in. That's what I'm trying to say. At some point the scarcity will set in, and people will be forced to wake up to the reality of the way things are. Much like getting fired and not being able to pay your mortgage or your rent, and now you're gonna be homeless. Because the path of socialism, the path of government spending the way it is just not sustainable. The more money that they put in the system, the more it devalues the money. And they keep on expanding the money supply. They keep on expanding the debt, the national debt. What is it? We owe, like, unresolved debts, unliable debt, something like that, and we're like $126 trillion in debt. So that'll never get paid. The 30 trillion will probably never be paid. How? When the most we've ever made is like 3.5 trillion. Like we average 3.5 trillion. How much we bring in? That's like okay. Imagine you're at work and you get your check. It's like the net you take in. Well, it's supposed to be gross, but the gross they take. You know what I mean? Like the government spent 3 trillion more than they brought in last year. So it's like it takes about maybe 40,000 a year to support your family, but you're spending 80. It's not sustainable. And that lockdowns and all that 2020 period really showed me stuff, because a lot of people they don't want to work, and I work through that. So it's not like I'm lazy, but for me, I'm just burnt out with responsibility. But for the average person who took a year and a half off because they got paid more to not work, not the average person, but there's people out there like that. They don't want to go back to work. And that lifestyle that they were accustomed to is not sustainable. It's just not. Eventually somebody else's money runs out. Eventually businesses get closed, and you're not going to sustain that lifestyle. And what a lot of females just, people in general, but a lot of females especially, they don't live in reality. They are being propped up, and they don't have to face consequences even for their bad behavior. Some of them might get called out on the internet, but largely they have support from the army of simps. And what I can't wait to see, what I want to see, what gives me hope is seeing some of these females talk all this shit on the internet about how great they are, and don't realize how privileged they are. And then going from the rich house, going from this like this situation where they live in a bubble, to reality, the harsh reality of things. And that gives me hope. And it's just because I can sit there, I can forgive. I have no problem forgiving people. But the arrogance of some of these females, like, I don't need no man for nothing. Men are trash. And it's like, we are the ones that keep this infrastructure going, and you're gonna bash on us. And then in the meantime, you don't even want to participate in working these hard jobs. It's like these females who complain about the WNBA not getting paid as much as the NBA. Well, are you supporting it? Nah. Don't you understand the whole point of these leagues are based off of the income they have coming in, the revenue coming in from the fans. So if the fans aren't paying attention, if you're not paying attention, if you're not doing anything to support these females, and they're being subsidized by the NBA, what are you complaining about? Essentially, sports people or Hollywood people, they're like, not only are they like, they are talented, but they have to market themselves, sell themselves, like music. Oh, why isn't there any good music? You want to know why there's no good music? You know why people don't like music now? You want to know why? I'm going to tell you why. And I don't hear anyone talking about this. When I was a kid, oh, you're a fucking boomer. When I was a teenager, they would play songs into your head. You know, most songs you don't like right off the bat. Most songs you're not like, you don't get that chill up your spine like the first time you hear it. But, they play in your head. You hear it more and more, and then you start to like it. You start to get comfortable. It starts to rub off on you. Well, we consume whatever we want now. We don't really, I don't know, most people, I don't listen to the radio. Or MTV. MTV would be like, they had a play cycle of music videos that you would watch. We don't have that anymore. And people were programmed to like certain songs, certain music back in the day. Well, they don't have that anymore. And that's why it's harder for people to get programmed to say, oh, I like this. I like that. Because they're not being programmed. People are easily programmed. And that's why people seem like they're NPCs. I was programmed before. Twice. It's easy to fall in that. It's easy to like be in the Matrix. It's easy to be asleep. But eventually, people are going to have to wake up because things are going to get so hard. There's going to be so much scarcity, so much of a massive inequality where it's like the Rosa Parks on the bus. Like, I'm sure back in the day, most black people just went along with it because that's what they were programmed to go along with. And then eventually someone woke up called Rosa Parks, and then she is like, nah, I'm not fucking getting up. And then she made a massive change. Martin Luther King's another great person in the past that did that. But I gotta get in there. You know what I'm talking about, though.